Hi students, welcome back to the video class of business regulation. Today we are going to discuss the concept contract of agency. Agency contracts are very important in business law. As per the Indian Contract Act 1872, section 182 to section 238 deals the concept contract of agency. So section 182 to section 238 is solely for discussing the concept contract of agency. So what is the contract of agency means? Let me give you the explanation regarding this concept with the help of two cases. A person who can sell his goods, he can deal his transaction by himself. This is one case. So the second case is that a person who cannot sell his goods or he cannot deal his transaction himself, then he can appoint another person. So this second case that we call it as contract of agency. Confused? So I will give you more clarity regarding this concept. Suppose A is a seller and A appointed B as an agent. Here A selling some goods or he has some business. We can say that he sells some electronic goods or he wanted to sell some property, real estate business or whatever it may be. He appointed another person for doing that business on behalf of A. So here B is appointed as agent. A is the owner and he is appointed B as an agent. So this contract we call it as a contract of agency. Now agent is going to act on behalf of the owner. But here the notable point is that ownership is not transferred. In the case of contract of agency, ownership is not transferred. Ownership is only vested with one person. It is not changed from one person to another at the time of contract of agency. So in the above example, all the duty of doing business is vested with B. A is going to receive amount from B. That is whatever B is sold or how many goods he sold, the benefit is gone to A because A is the principal and B is the agent. B has only the right to sell that goods, not receiving the benefit. So once again the contract which create the relationship of principal and the agent is known as the contract of agency. According to English law, the contract of agency implies one person appointing another person to establish lawful business relation with the third parties. So these are all about the introduction of contract of agency. Now the next topic for today's discussion is rules of agency. There are two important rules of agency. So the first rule is what a person do himself can get done through an agent. So this is the first rule regarding contract of agency. Whatever a person can do personally, he can do through an agent. In other words, QE facit per alium facit per se. Once again, QE facit per alium facit per se. So the meaning of this sentence is he who does through another does by himself. That is the meaning of the term QE facit per alium facit per se. This rule is subject to certain exceptions such as marriage, singing, painting, etc. So where personal service or skill is required, contract of agency is not applicable. This is the first rule. Once again, the first rule is what a person do himself can get done through an agent. So whatever a person can do personally, he can do through an agent. This is the first rule. Now the second rule is whatever a person does through another does by himself, which means the act of an agent is subject to certain conditions of the principal. So these are the two important rules regarding contract of agency. Now the next topic for today's discussion is parties to agency. So the creation of agency involves three parties: principal, agent, third party. Third party. It can be anyone. But the main important two characters which are involved in contract of agency is only owner and agent. Third party are not much important in this case. Anyway, third party will be there. That's it. So these are all about the third party. But the main persons which are involved in contract of agency is principal and agent. Principal is a person who passes the authority to act to the agent, and the agent is a person who acts as an intermediary between principal and a third party. So principal, agent and third party are the three personalities involved in the contract of agency. Now the next topic for today's discussion is essentials of agency or essential features of agency. If you want to make agency of contract as valid contract, some essential features must be fulfilled. So what are the essential features of a contract of agency? First feature is a name of a relation. Agency is the name of a relation that exists between an agent and his principal. Now the second one is an agreement. Agency should be created by an agreement between the principal and the agent. Such agreement may be either express or implied. It may be expressed in writing or it may be oral. Now the third feature is competency of the principal. The person appointing an agent must himself have the legal capacity or competency to do the act when he appointing the agent. Any person who is of the age of majority according to the law and who is of sound mind may appoint an agent. So we can say that a minor or a person of unsound mind cannot appoint an agent. Now the next feature is consideration is not necessary. Consideration means some remuneration or something in return. Consideration may be in the form of money or in the form of some services. Sometimes contract of agency works without consideration. In other words, no consideration is necessary to create an agency. But almost all cases you find consideration. Without consideration, no agent coming. And now the next feature is free consent. An agreement of agency depends on the free consent of the parties, that is the agent and his principal. So the agreement between agent and his principal must be in the form of free consent. Now the next feature is contractual relationship. An agent is a person who represents his principal in dealing with a third party. Between a principal and the agent there must be a contractual relationship. Now the last feature is all essentials of a valid contract. A valid agency must have all other essentials of a valid contract. In our previous videos we studied what are the essential features of a valid contract. So all that essential features must be applicable in this contract of agency also. Now we can discuss the next topic, that is who can employ an agent. According to section 183, any person who is of the age of majority according to the law and who is of sound mind may employ an agent or may appoint the agent. So any person who is competent to contract may appoint an agent. A minor, a lunatic or drunken person cannot appoint an agent. So I think you get an answer of this question, that is who can employ an agent. Any person who attained at the age of majority and who is of sound mind can employ an agent or can appoint an agent. Now the next question is who may be an agent. According to section 184, as between the principal and third person, any person may become an agent. Thus even a minor or a person of unsound mind can be appointed as an agent if a person who is not competent to contract is appointed as an agent. The principal is liable to the third party for the act of the agent if that agent is not competent. But such an incompetent agent shall not be liable to the principal. So it is the interest of the principal that the agent should have contractual capacity. So the answer of this question is any person can act as an agent. Even a minor or a lunatic or an unsound person can appoint as an agent. But any mistake or any problem is arised due to this unsound person, that unsound person is not liable, but the principal is liable for that mistake or that loss. And that principal is liable to the third person. So these are all about the question who may be an agent. Now the next topic is difference between an agent and a servant. So the first difference is based on the scope of authority. An agent can create a contractual relationship between the principal and a third party, but a servant cannot create contractual relationship between its employer and a third party. So the scope of the authority is very wide in the case of agent, but it is very less in the case of servant. Next is remuneration. An agent receives commission for his services, but a servant is generally paid wages or salary. Now the next difference is on whose behalf. An agent may work for several principals at the same time. A servant can only serve one master at a time. So this is also one of the important difference. Now the next difference is control. An agent is not subject to direct control and supervision of the principal. He is often discretion, but a servant acts under the direct control of the supervision of his master and must follow all his reasonable order. So here sometimes there is no strict and close supervision in the case of an agent, but always there is a strict control and supervision is there in the case of a servant. Now the next topic is liability of the principal. The principal is liable for all the wrongful act of the agent which are within the scope of his authority, but the master is bound by the wrongful act of his servant if done in the course of a servant's employment. So these are all about differences between agent and a servant. Now the next topic is creation of an agency. An agency may be created in several ways. So the important ways for creating an agency is, first one is agency by express agreement. We can create an agency through an express agreement. Second one is agency by implied agreement. Then third one is agency by ratification. Fourth one is agency by operation by law. Now take the first case, that is agency by express agreement. A contract of agency may be created by an express agreement. When a principal appoints an agent either by words spoken or written to represent an act for him, so there is an express agency is created. This agency is created when authority is given by the principal and accepted by the agent either in writing or orally. So there is an express agreement between a principal and an agent. Now the second one is agency by implied agreement. An agency by agreement may be implied under certain circumstances. It may be created based on the conduct of the parties or the relationship between parties. Agency by estoppel, agency by holding out, and agency of necessity are the important cases of implied agency. So first one is agency by estoppel. Agency may be created by estoppel, or a person by his conduct or statement induced others to believe that a certain person is his agent. He is prohibited from subsequently denying it. So these are all about agency by estoppel. Now the next one is agency by holding out. Agency by holding out is a branch of agency by estoppel. In this case, a prior positive or affirmative act on the part of the principal is required to establish agency subsequently. This type of agency may also arises on the basis of the exaggeration of the principal about the agent before a third party, and such a party enter into a contract believing the exaggeration is real. Now the third case is agency by necessary. Sometimes extraordinary circumstances require that a person who is not really an agent should act as an agent of another. Such an agency is called agency by necessity. Thus, this type of agency is created by the emergencies of the circumstances and not by the will of the parties. So, here emergency act as the creation of a contract. Now, the third main head is agency by ratification. Ratification means the subsequent adoption and acceptance of an act originally done without instruction or authority. That is, when some act is done by a person on behalf of another person but without another person's knowledge and authority. The other person has two options in such a case. He may either accept or disown such act. When he accepts and confirms the act, he is said to have ratified it. So, once again, a ratification means the subsequent adoption and acceptance of an act that is originally done without the instructions or authority. That is, when some act is done by a person on behalf of another person but without another person's knowledge and authority. So, that case is known as agency by ratification. So, in this case, the other party has two options. First option is he may either accept, that is the first option, or he may disown such a contract. If he accept and confirm the act, then we can set it as a ratification. According to section 197 of the Act, ratification may be expressed or may be implied in the conduct of the person on whose behalf the act is done. On ratification, the principal is bound by the act already done on the behalf. Such agency is also known as ex post facto agency. Ex post facto agency, that is agency arising after event. So, agency by ratification is also known as ex post facto agency or agency arising after event. Now, there are some conditions for valid ratification. So, the conditions are: the agent must act on behalf of the principal, the principal must be competent to contract, and there should be an act capable of ratification, the principal must have full knowledge of the material fact, whole transaction must be ratified within a reasonable time that ratification is applicable. Ratification must not injure a third party. So, these are the important conditions for a valid ratification. Now, the next case is agency by operation of law. Agency may also be created by operation of law. In such case, a law presumes a person as an agent of another. Here, law considers one person as an agent of another. So, this is the case of agency by operation of law. So, once again, there are mainly 4 cases for creation of an agency, that is agency by express agreement, then agency by implied agreement. Here implied agreement, there is 3 cases are there, that is agency by estoppel, agency by holding out, and agency by necessary. Then there is agency by ratification is there. Then next one is agency by operation of law. Now we can discuss another area, that is implied authority between husband and wife, or wife as the agent. Wife as the agent. Marriage creates a relationship between husband and wife. A husband is bound to maintain his wife, but the liability depends on the principle of agency, and he is liable only when he has expressly or impliedly authorized his wife to do certain things on his behalf. The mere fact of living together by the husband and wife will raise a presumption that wife has implied authority to pledge the credit of the husband for the purchase of necessaries for the household. Suppose an husband and wife live together, there is an implied assumption that wife has authority to pledge the credit of the husband for the purchase of necessaries for the household. But in certain situation, husband can escape from his liability. So the situations are, he has expressly forbidden his wife to pledge his credit. That is the first situation. Then the goods purchased are not necessaries. Then sufficient funds has been given to purchase necessaries. And the last one is the trader has been expressly informed not to give credit to his wife. So in all this situation, husband is escaped from the liability. So these are all about wife as the agent, or the concept wife as the agent. Now the next area for today's discussion is kinds of agents or types of agent. So the first type is based on authority. So on the basis of extent of authority, agents may be a general agent, a special agent and a universal agent. So the first classification of agent is based on extent of liability, extent of the liability of the agent. So the first classification under on the basis of extent of their authority is a general agent. So who is a general agent? A general agent is one who is employed to transact generally all the business of the principal in regard to which he is employed. For example, a manager of a firm. In the case of a manager, he has to do all the work related with that institution. So such type of agent is known as general agent. Now the next type is special agent. When an agent is do some particular act or represent his principal in some particular transaction, he is known as special agent. For example, an agent appointed to sell a particular property, or an agent who is appointed to sell a motor car. As soon as the act is performed, the authority of such an agent comes to an end. So such type of agent is known as special agent. Now the next one is universal agent. His authority is unlimited. That is, one who is authorized to do all the acts which the principal can lawfully do and can delegate. He enjoys extensive power to transact every kind of business on behalf of his principal. So these are all about kinds of agents based on the extent of authority. And now the next classification is based on the nature of the work performed. On the basis of the nature of the work performed, agents are classified into mercantile agent and non-mercantile agent. So first one is mercantile agent. A mercantile agent is one who has the authority either to sell goods or to buy goods or to raise money on the security of goods. These agents act mainly in the field of buying and selling of goods. So once again, on the basis of nature of the work performed, the first classification is mercantile agent. And there are mainly 4 types of mercantile agents. They are factor agent, commission agent, deal credit agent, broker. So first one is factor agent. A factor is a mercantile agent with whom goods are kept or sale. He has got a discretionary power to enter into a contract of sales with a third party. So such agent is known as factor agent. Next one is commission agent. A commission agent is a person who is employed to do a certain act for his principal in return of a commission. A duty of the commission agent is to procure the goods required by him as cheaply as possible and to charge his principal the actual cost of the goods plus his commission. So this is the duty of the commission agent. Now the third type of agent under mercantile agent is a deal credit agent. A deal credit agent is one who for extra remuneration guarantee the performance of the contract by the other party. If the other party fails to pay the price or otherwise causes damages to the principal, the debtor agent must pay compensation to the principal. Now the last category is broker. A broker is an agent who bring buyers and sellers into contract with one another. When the parties are brought together, the duty of the broker ends there. The contract of sale and purchase is entered into directly by the parties. The broker does not keep the goods or the property of the principal in his possession. If the broker is appointed for selling the goods, his main function is to find out a buyer and connect the parties, and if he is appointed for purchasing the goods, his function is to find out the seller for the goods. So these are the important types of mercantile agents. Now the next second category under the nature of work performed, agent may be non-mercantile agent. Non-mercantile agents may be estate agents who are employed to negotiate the sale and purchase or lease of immovable property, or house agents who are similarly engaged with respect to house, shops, etc., or law agents whose business is to look after the legal affairs of their principals. Counsel, attorney and wife are also non-mercantile agents. So the examples of non-mercantile agents are estate agents, house agents, law agents, counsel, attorney, wife. So these are the important classification of kinds of agents. So now we can discuss the important questions which is related with today's topic, that is, what is agency, define an agent and principal, explain the rules regarding agency, what are the essential features of agency, who can employ an agent, who may be an agent, explain the differences between agent and servant, what are the ways in which agency is created. So students, today we discussed the concept contract of agency. Under contract of agency, we discussed the meaning and definition of contract of agency. Then we discussed some rules regarding contract of agency. We also discussed the essential features of agency. Then we get the answer regarding the two questions, that is, who can employ an agent and who may be an agent. After that, we discussed the differences between agent and servant, and at last we discussed the various ways in which an agency is created. So I think all you get an idea regarding all this concept. So we can wind up today's discussion, and we can meet in our next class. Till then, bye, take care.